Hey, what's going on, fam? It's Damon Rich Speaks, the relationship chat GPT. Had an awesome time last night, had an opportunity to talk about intimacy and was so grateful for that. Let me unpack a little bit of it. Intimacy first is by definition about closeness and familiarity. Coincidentally, sex and intimacy is only a euphemism. So sex is not even included in the definition of intimacy. So we talked about that. We dug into it a little bit. We talked about 5 ways or 5 keys to building intimacy, and I'll get to that in just a moment. But during the discussion, I dove into the story of Samson, which, if you know me, is one of my top 5 favorite Bible study out of my 100 favorite Bible studies that are in my top 5, right? Figure it out, do the math. So here's something important about Samson. I love his story because it tells us so much about wounded men and how we get wounded and how we stay wounded and the cost of our woundedness. And one of the costs of Samson's woundedness was that he is a cautionary tale to the impact of being intimate with the wrong person. What's the intimacy? Getting close and allowing the wrong person to be familiar with you can be costly to you. There's probably no greater display of intimacy that a man can have for his wife than to just lay his head in her lap and go to sleep and just rest. That man feels safe. That man feels secure if he will do that. And Samson laid his head in the lap of a woman who couldn't be trusted. There's a whole lot to the why behind that. I'll have to unpack that in another video. But here are 5 things around that it takes to build intimacy. One is familiarity. So in order to build intimacy, you have to have familiarity. Here's the dangerous part about familiarity. Familiarity, there's a statement that familiarity breeds contempt. That means that when you can get so familiar with something or someone that you start to not only not appreciate it, but devalue it. You think it's less than. So when you're familiar with a person, the way to get there and how you can devalue it is all of a sudden they start sharing with you their secrets. They start sharing with you the things that are up close with them. They start giving you their fears and their shortcomings that other people might not readily see. And so you start to have a contempt for them because you're familiar with them. But if you can honor that familiarity, it'll help you build intimacy. Now, the second thing that helps build intimacy is safety. Now, safety, as I just mentioned with Samson, is about being able to let your guard down. I'm not worried about anything around you. I had shared last night a story about me and my wife and about a situation where I didn't understand that early in marriage, and she had shared something with me, and I shared it with someone that I should not have shared it with, and that made her feel unsafe because she then had to be guarded with her words and her actions around me. Safety is important. So the third thing is security. Now, security and safety are 2 completely different things. Security means that in modern day that, hey, I know that I'm secure, that when you go out that you're going to be faithful to me. Security can also be that I don't have to worry about if the lights are going to go off. I don't have to worry about if the car is going to get repossessed. Early in my marriage, there were not a lot of security or safety because we lost the house. We lost the car. We struggled financially. So there wasn't a lot of safety or security happening at the rich home. And so that is having that security, having that knowing that I can trust you to go out and honor your vows. That's security. And you need it to build intimacy. So we talk familiarity, we talk safety, we've talked security, right? Number 4 is risk. You have to be willing to risk something in order to have intimacy. You got to be willing to risk something. You got to be able to put yourself out there and say, you know what? I know that you could hurt me, but I'm willing to take that chance with you because I want that intimacy with you. Because when I risk it with you and you prove that I'm safe with you, and you prove that I have security with you, and you prove that I can be familiar with you, it breeds a deeper level of intimacy between you and I, right? So now I'm in this situation where, hey, I know that this person really is a safe place, a secure place for me because I can be at risk with them, and they've honored that risk. The fifth thing is intentionality. You have to be intentional about being intimate. Remember, intimacy is about closeness and familiarity. So I have to be intentional about being close to you. I have to be intentional about being familiar with you. I have to intentional. I can't have intimacy by accident because, again, we're not talking about sex. We're talking about connection. And while connection for men a lot of times is boiled down to sex by society, the real thing for men is I just want to be able to lay my head in your lap and rest and know I'm safe and I'm secure, and that I can risk danger, that somebody could come in unaware, and that you got my back, that you're intentional about opening your lap for me to rest in. That woman just wants to know that she is safe and secure, that she's not having to compete with the average woman walking down the street because you are locked in on your vows. She needs to know that what she says with you, and even when she has those imperfect moments with you, that you won't hold them against her and call her crazy and think less of her for those things. She needs to know that she can come in close and you won't withdraw. So intimacy is something that's very important. I'm going to close out with this because there's 4 levels of intimacy, and you have to establish those 5 things in each of these areas. So level number 1 of intimacy, and this is not in order, this is just the number 1 thing, or the first thing on the list, is there is spiritual intimacy. And spiritual intimacy is being able to share your thoughts about your innermost beliefs about divine power. You got to be able to have those conversations. Hey, maybe you don't believe like your spouse does, or maybe your faith is waning, or maybe you are thinking about walking away from the faith that y'all met in all together, but you want to be able to talk safely about that and it not be held against you, and you're not getting drenched in olive oil, right? But then here's the other part of that, is that there's spiritual intimacy, but then there's emotional intimacy. Emotional intimacy is where I can share my weaknesses, my trials, my fears, all of those things. That's where emotional intimacy rests. Can I tell you my weakness and you not view me differently, not think less of me? Okay, so then there's emotional intimacy, there's spiritual intimacy, then there's, of course, there's physical intimacy, but physical intimacy is so much greater than just sex. But physical intimacy is, I feel safe with you touching me. I feel safe communicating what I like and I don't like, even beyond sex. There may be somebody who in a relationship, because of past traumas and different issues, that they feel don't feel safe with maybe you coming up behind them suddenly because they still have PTSD about something. You need to honor that. In the times where they might even pull you close in behind them because your understanding is allowing them to heal in that area. So we have spiritual, we have emotional, right? We have physical, and the last one is intellectual or mental. I'm a creative, so my ideas are sacred to me, and I don't like to share them easily with everyone. That's that mental intellect. Do I feel safe sharing my inventions, my ideas, my things? Because maybe they may sound stupid to you, but I don't need to hear they're stupid. I just need you to listen to them. And if you have some feedback or say, hey, have you thought about this, or have you considered this factor? That's fine, but don't, that's a crazy idea. That's not going to make me want to open up mentally or intellectually with you. So I want y'all to work on your intimacy, all 4 of them. And I want you to work on those 5 things, especially familiarity, risk, safety, security, and intentionality. Listen, that's all I have for you. I'll see you on the next video.